Today, we're gonna talk about firewood. I know, big surprise. But more importantly, equipment. And do you really need all this shit to get started? No. All right, thanks for watching. That's it. No, really, that's it. Now I know what you're thinking. This guy's gonna trash talk expensive equipment while sitting in front of a $100,000 backdrop of shiny tools used to split less than 20 cords a year. Yep. I think it really comes down to the age-old battle between need and want. I have a YouTube channel. I have about 8 views a week from the same 2 people. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I have a $10,000 studio that we're sitting in right now that I use to make some semi-worthless videos and watch a lot of Netflix. Definitely a need. Paved log yard, 4 splitters, 3 side-by-sides, a conveyor, several overpriced chainsaws, bin blocks, and a shed that now has almost nothing in it but some random tools and a whole bunch of raccoon crap because I left the door open all winter. Dump trailer, dump trailer, dump trailer, skid steer, Kubota. I really have a problem. Other Kubota. Now, I'm not the guy that says you can split 100 cords a year with a handsaw and an axe. But you can. You can. Probably not you. A lot of the things that I have also serve a dual purpose. My skid steer, dump trailers, things like that I use for my day job, personal enjoyment, snow removal, and just general maintenance around my property. My take is that someday I may want to retire. And when I do, whether I want to sell firewood to make a little extra money, maybe do some side jobs with the tractors, different things like that, or just have it for my own personal enjoyment and heating my home and shop so that I don't have to worry about spending this astronomical amount of money on a gas bill in my retirement, or wanting equipment to enjoy my retirement that I don't own and either having to fork out my retirement money or, God forbid, in my 70s take out a loan on some piece of equipment that I may not even live long enough to pay it off. Kind of morbid. So enough about me justifying the insane amount of money I've spent on equipment that I probably don't need. The money spent on this stuff would probably just be better off if retirement is the goal, to be, put in the S&P 500 or some sort of long-term safe investment that I could draw on in my retirement, but that's not how I roll. That brings me to today's sponsor, Aux Boots. You put them on your feet. So here are the basics. You need something to cut the wood and you need something to split the wood. That's really it. That'll get you started. And if you're like me and you do less than 20 cords a year, that's probably just enough. Things like pickaroons, log tongs, other tools, poster of John Stamos, definitely all wants. And like I say, even within cutting and splitting, there's a lot of different options. You could get it done with this. But if you're like me and you do more than just a few totes, but maybe not into the big professional selling firewood realm, you're gonna probably want a motor on at least one of these. And if it is in that 10-20 cord range or more, you're probably gonna want a motor on both. You can tell I don't do a lot with hand saws because the only one I could find is a decoration I took off the wall for the video. So now that you're all motored up and ready to tell Tony Danza who's the boss, it's time for some PPE. Gloves, hats, glasses, helmets. Maybe you got helmets with comms. Sky's the limit. If you did stick to a saw and an axe, you don't need very much of that stuff. So if you're ready to level up from a saw and an axe, but you don't want to spend $12,000 on a brand new high-end commercial splitter or more, maybe you don't even want to spend $3,000 on an entry-level professional splitter, there's still a lot of options you can do to utilize hydraulics or kinetic splitters to make your life easier without busting the bank. You know, when I first started doing firewood, I bought a used log splitter off Facebook Market. It wasn't Facebook Marketplace, it was more like the Chicago Tribune Classifieds because the internet wasn't a thing yet. Remember newspapers? Anyways, I bought a big hydraulic log splitter. It was, 20 years old when I bought it. I think it was a Northern Tool, and I paid $800 for it. Big, powerful, had a log lift, tow behind. Not a nice splitter, it was kind of a old piece of junk. It was loud and smelled, but it really got the job done, and it could push through anything you threw at it. If your budget is in that $800 range, for that much, or maybe a little bit more, you could get a brand new box store splitter. I think I'd say $1,000, $1,200 probably gets it done. Those have served a lot of guys well for a lot of years. That's why you see them everywhere. It's for the guy that's maybe not putting out big production firewood, but you can sure get a lot done that way, and if you want to, you can upgrade from there. And I bet if you looked on Marketplace now, don't look on the Chicago Tribune, because I'm pretty sure there is no more classified section there, you could probably find a real nice splitter, whether it's a box store one or even some homemade splitter or something, for just a few $100s. And again, you could get a lot of work done that way. With saws, there's a lot of different options as well. They work really well without spending a fortune. Your big box store has tons of them. There's lots of electric and battery options for a guy that really doesn't cut very much wood. And while the Still saws, the 500i I have, super nice. We have a lot of fun modifying them, doing all kinds of things. And if that's your hobby, then great. That's an awesome thing. And if you are going into that professional realm of firewood production, some of these things are going to help a lot along the way, but they aren't necessary. Now, even the most expensive chainsaws don't compete even closely with the cost of a splitter. So maybe that's something that getting into it, you don't have to buy a used chainsaw. You don't have to buy one that you're frustrated with how well it starts or how well it cuts, but you certainly could if you were trying to save a few bucks. And again, work your way up from there, or just stay right there if it gets it done and it meets your needs. So now you've got a splitter, you've got a power saw, you've got your PPE, that's it, you're done. You can split wood in Firewood bliss, and you never need to buy another tool again. Right, none of you fell for that. Well, you did, but you know. But you know, we're men, damn it, and we like tools. Well, at least 91.6% of you are men, according to YouTube, and at least half of the 8.4% of you that are women are related to me. If it wasn't already, here's where it starts to get out of control. Say you want to ramp up production to the next level. I would say the logical choice is a tractor, dump trailer, and a conveyor, in no certain order and not necessarily all of those at once. Tractors aid in material handling. If you have a log lift, maybe you don't need one. A dump trailer is great for moving material, and if you're selling wood, it's great for doing your deliveries. Now, maybe you've got a pickup and that works fine. Maybe you've got a trailer that doesn't dump that you already own, and that works just fine as well. I've used a lot of ATV carts and things like that behind a four-wheeler. Some of them go well behind the tractor as well after I progress to that level. There's a million different opportunities. Conveyor speeds up production, loading trailers and getting the wood away from you and mounting it up high to save space. Very advantageous. You might have need outside of firewood for, say, a tractor, something you use to fix your lawn, to cut your grass. You know, I use mine for snow removal. So maybe the other needs are what would dictate which piece of equipment you buy next, or if you even buy it at all. Maybe you're a baller and you could buy it all at once. I built mine up over time. And early on, I couldn't afford to buy all new equipment, so I bought a lot of used stuff, and some of it I still have today. I've got an inverted splitter that when I finished buying this house, my plumber called me and said, "Hey, I've got this splitter and I think you should take it. It goes in the front of your skid steer. I know you're getting a boiler there. You're gonna be doing a lot of firewood." And I was like, "Man, I am so broke, I can't afford anything else." And he goes, $300. Yeah, I'll take it for $300. That thing's awesome. It was old when I got it. I have not so much as had a loose bolt on it since I've had it. It is totally awesome. And the skid steer that runs it, I bought that skid steer used 15 years ago for $20,000. I think it's a 2003, so that makes it like 22 years old this year. At $20,000, even then, that is like a quarter the cost of a new skid steer. It's insane. And a new skid steer now costs more than every piece of equipment I own put together, firewood and otherwise. It's out of control. If you can't keep that thing busy making you money every day, or you're not a farmer or somebody who just really needs a good dependable piece of equipment like that and can justify the cost, boy, I don't know how guys do it. My Kubota, on the other hand, I've got my L2501 that I bought. I paid $19,000 for that tractor. And the 4060 that I have now is a much more expensive tractor, but still probably a third the cost of a skid steer. And when I bought it, Kubota was offering like 82 months, 0% financing. So it really, to me, just made sense to have a brand new, really dependable tractor. And I know if I paid cash for it, it was in lieu of a rebate, the financing, blah, 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 blah. But I didn't have the money. It's not what I did. I was comfortable with the payment. It's 0 interest. I thought it was a great option. And now it's bought and paid for. It's a great piece of equipment, and I use it almost every day. Okay, so now you've got all this stuff and it's time to level up again. Maybe you're growing the business, maybe you have more need for more firewood, maybe you just want to buy more equipment. Where do you go to get more done? For me, it seems like maybe another splitter would be a good option. Maybe you've got a box store splitter, and like in my case, I bought a more professional splitter and kept my old one. I had a super split, worked great. I wound up keeping that one, and I got my Wolf Ridge. So now, for me, I need to split in multiple locations in our cabin in Kentucky and here in Illinois. But if you did have 2 people that wanted to come, maybe you've already got a tractor, a dump trailer, and a conveyor. With another splitter, you can share a conveyor, you could share a dump trailer, you can share a tractor, all those things, and you can put out a lot more wood. You do have to now have another person to run it. If you're going to hire another person to help you, maybe you don't need more equipment. Maybe you just need to keep multiple pieces of what you already have busy at the same time. For instance, if I have somebody in my skid steer grabbing logs and holding them while I buck them up, maybe they're doing that with the inverted splitter, and if they're big ones, they can split them and push them out of the way as they go. I would say that 2 people, if I'm wearing the PPE to cut and I've got another guy in the machine that never has to get out of it, you've got 2 people working, but I bet you are probably 3 to 4 times as fast with what you're doing. If you're not splitting, you're not cutting, you're not doing something, I just want to run the splitter by myself, let's say. I'm gonna do that, I can send somebody else out on deliveries, or vice versa, or take turns, whatever it is. One person could be out making deliveries while the other person's splitting. One person could be cutting. You guys get the picture. I can tell you though, from my other business endeavors, that even the least expensive forms of labor will quickly outprice just about any piece of equipment. And I know there's probably a lot of you that are like, oh, I got my boys at home, they're gonna help me, or my daughter comes out and she can really, run that machine like you wouldn't believe, or my wife loves to help me and she's not going off to college, so I think we can do this. Anyone who's worked like that with their family can tell you that kind of help is the most expensive help you'll ever pay for. And if you're trying to base like a firewood business on having your kids help you or your wife, it's just not super practical on a big scale, and with exception, like anything, probably not the best business model out there. I think it's the kind of thing that you get real tired of real quick. At least my wife would get tired of me real quick. There's a company by me I see that does firewood, and I think they run a landscaping company. So they have their landscapers in the off season splitting firewood. Probably started off to keep them busy, and I think there's a few of you guys out here on YouTube that kind of do the same thing. What I think they were finding is that they had plenty of guys for landscaping in the summer, but there weren't really enough of them to, do very much firewood. And I mean, they do mountains and mountains of firewood, thousands of cords. It's a pretty incredible operation. So what they started doing is coming to some of the guys like me, like local roofing companies, other landscaping companies, things that have very seasonal work, and employees that don't have a lot to do in the winter. And by us, it used to be you could go out and plow snow. It really doesn't seem like it snows that much anymore. I think I plowed twice this year. If you were depending on that to make a living, you'd be in big trouble. So I've got employees that we scrounge up some work. We go to Kentucky, do some of that stuff. There's unemployment if they need it, things like that. The guys seem to get by, but this company, in fact, just took advantage of a labor force with nothing to do in the winter, and they really ramp up pretty much from December 1st till about now, like beginning of April, when everybody has to go back to their day jobs, and they probably do too, but they're able to get a lot of firewood done with a lot of guys, and they don't have to worry about keeping them busy all year long, especially if you're busy with other stuff, That really kind of makes sense. It's something to think about. So just when you thought it surely can't go anywhere from there, and you could almost scale infinitely with the things we just talked about, you have arrived. You're the man. Processors. That was a bit much. I watched a video going over an Easton Made processor. It was 2 of them actually, and it might have been even on Easton Made's channel. But this guy had bought like $160,000 massive processor, and he was upgrading it to a newer, bigger one. He spent like 180 grand on it. And I remember him saying, I don't sell a stick of firewood. We just burn some, give it away to friends, things like that. Man, that's awesome. And he kind of said it like this, I have money and I don't care for sports cars, so this is what I do with my money. I really enjoy it. And he had actually said, you know, when it was a little harder to get splitters, things like that. I mean, now with tariffs, that guy's Easton-made processor is probably worth more than he paid for it. I think that was the case with the one he sold, so it even winds up, you know, being an investment. But good for him if that's what he wants to do with it. Certainly no rules against it. So processors, I mean, I think you could buy some smaller models these days for around $10,000, but you could spend probably millions on them, you know, certainly $500,000 I don't think would be too out of line for some of the real high-end circle saw processors. Maybe we'll do a video on processors at some point, but to date I've never even put my hands on one. Probably need to do something about that, but I'm not sure I'm much of an expert on processors. We'll see. And if you ever do hit that level, man, there are additional pieces of equipment that go with putting out that much wood that fast. You know, you've got disc cleaners, you know, trommel style cleaners, you've got loaders, conveyors, dump trucks, wheel loaders, hoop houses to, you know, pile your wood in while it dries, kilns. Sky's the limit. There is no shortage of things that you can spend your hard-earned money on. And a lot of them will make you more money. They're a great business opportunity. Probably not for most of us that, you know, are recreationally selling or supplemental income selling, but they're out there for guys that do need them. So want, need, who cares? You do you. Whether you spend $10 on a used saw and axe, or you want to spend millions of dollars on firewood equipment, sky is the limit. Either way, get out there, split something, enjoy life, have a fire. It's all fun. Gotta go hang my handsaw back up on the wall. Motherfucking processors.